That's where that's where I was like, okay, what kind of fat? Good fat?
You're
or bad
correct
fat?
about that.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good fault.
A
Yes.
funny
Good guess.
story.
Yes, I
When,
think yes, because I was okay. There's two different kinds of fat.
when my daughter had her
Okay,
first
I'm
baby,
Uh-huh.
the baby was extremely fat. First year of life, and the doctor kept saying, "What are you feeding this baby? What are you feeding this baby? And what is she eating?" And she was totally breastfed, totally. And it just happened that my daughter's milk just had a lot of fat in it, and it was sticking up the baby, and it, who knew?
Yeah.
Kind of
But
funny.
it's good, but actually, and especially later on with childhood obesity, it's more working the other way. It's not restricting their caloric intake so much, it's really more physical activity, because that's where we see the problem is. You know, they need to have a certain amount, and so we don't want to reduce that or give them less of what they really need. We'd rather work the other end. They need to be able to burn it off when it's something high in calories. But, and again, this is American Academy of Pediatrics. It's not like I'm just think it's a great idea. They're saying this. And I do remember, I think, even in some nutrition classes, this was years and years ago, having to do with research on fat genes, that they were talking about reducing it. But definitely for babies and toddlers, we're talking about it's critical that they have it, and more so for development. So, and then as we get older, we can reduce it, the percentage that we need in our diet. But most of it, when we're younger, it's about 40% of our diet. Sugar makes kids hyperactive.
No.
That's a myth. It's been a myth for quite some time. There's some people that still really have stuck to that and won't let it go. I know some teachers that really feel that, and they get really upset with certain non-nutritious snacks given to their children, or even fruit has high sugar content. So, but this myth was actually put to rest. I think in the early 80s, it was done in England, an English study that found that there's absolutely no link. Now, in saying that, anytime though we have certain foods that are high in sugar, we do have a burst of activity. It's usually like in short durations though. It could be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. And I remember in school, our coach would tell us, we got to watch it, because if we ate like a Snicker bar before a game, that we would have sort of a peak in energy level and concentration, a lot of those areas that you want, but it would really decline fast, and then we wouldn't be performing so well. But as far as hyperactive, see, the thing is with the word hyperactive, that's kind of moving into a clinical syndrome, and it's not clinical. So it doesn't mean that you might see kids that are seemingly more, having more energy. That's possible, but as far as hyperactivity, no. You could be actually very focused and be able to do your work. Okay. Let's see. The next one, you must be vigilant when starting foods to prevent food allergies. What do you guys know about food allergies? I know we have some kids on campus that have food allergies, and that's why we have the no peanut zone plastered on everywhere. So no more peanut M&Ms or anything like that. You can't have any of that. But actually, they're very rare. Very low prevalence of food allergies. And the majority of food allergies are attributed to kind of a cluster of foods. Peanuts is one, milk, eggs are common, but again, it's very low prevalence, and shellfish. All of those together comprise about 90% of the food allergies with children. However, being vigilant, no, actually, because most children do not have food allergies. In fact, pediatricians recommend that if there's a history of it in the family, and actually if there's asthma, eczema, certain conditions within the family, and definitely food allergies in the family, then you might wait until after like 2.5, 3 to introduce certain types of food. Okay, kind of specifically some of these ones that are likely to be in that category. But overall, for the most part, children often will, not children, but parents often will say that their child is sensitive to this or that, and really that's not always the case. Usually they're not actually allergic to it. So maybe they don't like it or whatever, but okay. Next one, milk is necessary for strong bones. I think that was a commercial at some point in time, it seems like it. What do you think about that one? Again, it's that word necessary.
False.
False. It's not necessary. Okay. However, in saying that, as far as calcium, it really is one of the best sources of calcium. But what are some other sources? So what are some other ways that children can get it? Cheese. So think about your milk group, your dairy category. You know, cheese, yogurt.
How about ice cream? I'm always thinking about that.
It is a dairy product, high in fat content, high in sugar. You know, I mean, typically you don't see pediatricians saying to go ahead and give it to them because there's other sources, and even dark leafy vegetables, grains also. But there is calcium in ice cream, but then you're getting the higher fat. And say if they're 4 or 5, do you want to give them, you know, as much fat? Do they need that much fat? And how many bowls of ice cream are they having in a day? That kind of thing. And are they doing much activity?
Lisa?
Yes.
They used to say, again when my daughter was pregnant, because she didn't drink milk, to crack bones and make her like broths and things like that. And it would leach from the bones. It wasn't as high as calcium, and she still took her supplements, but that's what they used to say.
Bones of the food?
Bones like from meat.
Chicken marrow.
Yeah. I would say that there's probably truth to that. You know, just knowing that that is what makes up bones. I just don't know how convenient for most parents, but I know my mother. Yeah, but my mother, who is a Latina, definitely would say that. You know, she's that nibbling on a bone or having the you know, the bone marrow. You know, I remember her saying that. So I do think there's truth to that, and you'll see differences culturally. So again, we're going to touch on what overall are the categories, but as far as ethnic foods and things like that, there may be other staple foods for that group that would still satisfy the category. Okay. Okay, so when a child is sick, it's best to feed a cold. Let's see, give them more. And starve a fever. No, that myth has also been put to rest by pediatricians, professionals, right? Put that. Basically, you don't want to withhold food for a child. They may not have the same appetite, but definitely when they have flus or colds, what's really important is the hydration, right? There's a loss of salt, so Pedialyte is oftentimes what pediatricians recommend. But as far as withholding food, when they have a fever, no. And especially if they're wanting something, you want to give them something. Okay, and definitely, I think we all know that's important because there's so much fatigue when you have that, and so it's really going to diminish them even more so without getting any food. Okay, and they need to be able to fight this infection, so they need to have the strength to do that. Okay, as far as 100% fruit juice being equitable to water, what do you think about that?
False.
I would like to think it is, but it's not, because I do like fruit juice. It's not, though. Water is really the best thing for your body. That's how your cells work and function. They need water, which, we do get water in juice. We get water in soup. We get water in teas and other things we have. Water, though, is the best source, and particularly just having water by itself is recommended. Actually, for young children, most pediatricians recommend that you shy away from the juices because of the high sugar content, which is correlated with tooth decay kind of thing, and also sometimes will diminish their appetite. So if you give them that before a meal, they may not even want to eat as much food. So it really doesn't seem to have a lot of good properties as far as that. It actually could.
Lisa, something that comes up in our line of work fairly frequently, I think, is this whole debate about putting the baby down with a bottle. And if you've ever known anybody that had, what do they call it, bottle teeth, from
being stuck and held,
no, I mean rotting, putting them down, and from the fruit juice, and it just completely rots out their front teeth. You do it enough.
Yeah.
And I need somebody like that. very sad.
That's horrible. And I know that dentists, they've got out a lot of literature to try to educate parents about that and putting their child to bed with the fruit juice. And yeah, it's just rotting. And as far as even the nutritional value, they're not getting much as far as nutritional value. And even for parents that want to really give them maybe even some apple juice early on, they recommend that it's diluted, quite a bit diluted. So again, I think we want to always opt for water is the best choice, but again, for some variety, some juices, but then heavily diluted, and definitely not cropping them and leaving them for lengths of time, and definitely not making sure that the majority of their liquids is coming from, these juices. The majority should be milk and should be, water. Okay. Yeah, but offering juices as a treat, I think, is not necessarily a bad thing. Again, limiting it, and definitely limiting it before meals. Okay, and last, forget the white bread. You want to opt for wheat bread for kids. What do you guys think about
So
that?
false. I like the white bread.
You sound just like my son. Buy the white bread. I don't want that brown bread.
I don't know how I would have gone through like elementary if my mom took white bread.
Yeah, and actually the whole wheat flour bread it is really good as far as the high fiber content, and so that's why they're pushing that. It's very good. You're satisfying that part of the food guidelines. You're getting, but as far as not having white bread or thinking it's bad, no, it's actually okay to have. It does have a number of vitamins in it, but it doesn't have the fiber content that you get with the wheat. So then they need to get that somewhere else. Okay, so they'll need to get it from the leafy greens or some other source. So again, it doesn't mean that you can't have it. It's just considering what you're getting from one and not the other.
Do they say that whole grain is better, the whole grain white bread? Because
Yes. Yeah.
it's still white, it's just whole grain.
Whole grain. Yeah. And there are some that are now being able to do it where it's white and whole grain. Yeah.
So all of these were false.
Were all of them? I guess that's right. All of them were false. Yeah. So if you got them all, if you had false for all those, you get 100%. Okay. All right. However, as we've said in our earlier trainings on parenting, what's going to be critical is what you're going to model in the home. If you know about a well-balanced diet being the key, that's great, but are you eating a well-balanced diet? Or are you breaking out the chips and the juice and the Pepsi and the Diet Coke and what else do we like to have? Those different things.
Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, cookies and and cakes and pastries and that kind of thing. And I think, and also if you have any nutrition class, it's really not saying you should never ever have these things. Again, you need to consider what's good nutrition for children and for you, what you need to have in your diet, and then just limiting those other things. So in moderation, if you're pounding down, several pieces of cake, once in a while, we have a birthday cake or whatnot, and you have a piece of cake. It's not, the end of the world. It's just kind of limiting the sugar and the salt and some of those things that we know right now are linked to the number one killer being heart disease. Most of it is linked to heart disease, so hypertension. What's recommended if you look under any parenting education information is trying to get kids interested in food, learning about food, and they do that at school with the food pyramid and talking about it and have them color. You can print out the My Pyramid and have them color it so they can learn the different food groups like we did in school, even though we learned it under different models kind of thing. But getting kids into the kitchen early, so if they're able to, rinse off the lettuce and help prepare the salad, cleaning the strawberries, whatever they need to do to kind of get them involved with the food and getting to know more about the foods, and also getting them into the garden, growing fruits and vegetables, and then cleaning them and eating them and all of that. So those are things you can do relatively well. I say that some people may not have access to a garden necessarily, so there may be some limitations there. And then definitely just watching what you eat. If you're on your kids about milk and you're having like I said, soda or diet drinks, that's not